This is the Tenkara Angler Level Line Podcast, your home for smart discussion about Tenkara and other forms of fixed line fly fishing. Welcome to the Tenkara Angler Level Line Podcast. My name is Mike Agneta. I'm the senior editor and founder of Tenkara Angler, and it's great to be back and have a podcast again. It's been about 2 years since the last time we did one. And we have a really good lineup of guests tonight. The first one actually is my co-host. His name is Matt Sment, fellow editor of the website and magazine. How's it going, Matt? How you doing?
Great. Good to be here, Mike. I'm really excited that we're getting this podcast thing back in the water because we can't catch fish unless the fly's in the water, so to speak. But yeah, we've got some great guests to get things going again with tonight, talking about one of the cool events that have been popping up this year. So I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of touch on that really quick, we've had a lot of really cool events this spring and early summer. There was the one that Jason Sparks of Appalachian Tenkara Anglers hosted down in North Carolina, which was very well attended. I know both you and I and one of our guests attended that as well. And I mean, what was there? Probably 50, 60 people there for a whole weekend. Both new and old angler, new and experienced anglers, both.
Definitely more people than you could keep up with and meet in a weekend, that's for sure. But it was really good to see such a crowd turn out for it. It was, this kind of water. So like that kind of sells itself with anglers. But
yeah, that's perfect Tenkara water. Absolutely. All those riffles and pockets and stuff like that. Yeah. And then you and I just got back, I guess, what was it, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, we were fishing together in the driftless, which was fun at the, I guess what it's a mouthful, the Tenkara, Wisconsin Great Driftless Campout, right?
Something to that effect. Yeah.
How they string that together.
It is all of those things. And Zone and Dave have done a great job of keeping that tradition alive. And that's really, got its own momentum and become kind of a regional anchor. Which is why, after North Carolina and Wisconsin, it's exciting to see another area, popping up like this up in the Northeast, especially because like next year, it'll be a great excuse for me to finally get up there. I'm hoping.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, we've definitely had, concentrations of Tenkara events, in the Southeast, in the Midwest, obviously out West in Colorado when, Tenkara USA was having theirs. And, Tanuki has his boot camps out in Colorado. But the one that we're going to be talking about today is one that was, as Matt mentioned, in New England. It was the White Mountains Tenkara Campout. It was, if I'm not mistaken, it was held the weekend of June 10th through 12th. And we've got 3 guests here that were heavily involved in that event, a couple weeks ago. First, we have Bill Holleran of Brook Tenkara. We have Amanda Hoffner. You may know her as Lady Tenkara Bum from Instagram and other social medias. And then we have Nate Camp, who's kind of like a jack of all trades. I'd say I'd mention, Camp Kebari, but I know you also have camp cooking and things like that too. So, Nate's got his fingers in a lot of different things. So why don't I let you guys kind of introduce yourself? Bill, if you want to kind of start out, just give everybody a little bit of a rundown of who you are and, what your Tenkara background is.
All right. First, thank you for having us on, and thanks for all you do. Tenkara Angler is the best source as far as our community is concerned. You guys do so much. I appreciate everything you do. I'm Bill Holleran. I'm the founder and owner of Brook Tenkara, based in Massachusetts. Just north of Cape Cod is where I live. I'm an early adopter of the Tenkara method. I sell my own line of Tenkara gear, and I teach Tenkara all over New England, mostly at angling clubs and Trout Unlimited chapters and stuff like that. I do attend all the fly fishing shows and regular fishing shows, just to kind of try to spread the word about Tenkara all over our area. My company is named after a famous salter stream, Red Brook. For those who don't live in the area, a salter is a seed run brook trout. That's what we call them up here. And Red Brook is a famous salter stream near the Cape, and it was restored by people in Trout Unlimited and a lot of volunteers that put a lot of effort into restoring the stream back to its original state. And now it is known as like the best place in Massachusetts for salters or seed run brook trout.
That's awesome.
So that's why I named my company after that. I rarely fish there. I go there a lot and I hike and I take pictures and, I fish occasionally. But it's one of those special places that, you just want to treat special and you don't want to overfish it, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And when you do fish it, it's really difficult and challenging anyway. So I told Tanuki Tenkara to go there and he had a tough time there, I think. But anyways.
Maybe it was all the orange he wears, giving himself a way to those fish.
Yeah, that's my story.
Cool.
Well, welcome, Bill.
I'll kick it over to one of the other.
Thank you.
Amanda, you want to go?
Sure. My name's Amanda Hoffner. I am Lady Tenkara Bomb on Instagram and Facebook. You can just find me by my name. But I got into Tenkara a few years ago. I still consider myself an amateur, but I am obsessed with spreading the art of Tenkara, the art of fixed line fishing to anyone and everyone that breathes and walks this earth, because I find it the most peaceful thing to do, to get outside and to fish. So it was really great to meet you guys. Actually, Mike and Matt, I don't even know if I met you down in North Carolina. There were so many people like floating around.
Yeah, it was difficult to get around everybody. So I think we kind of missed each other in the flow. But
I did see your really cool camper van, though. That was or truck. It was like a Tundra with a pop-up on the top. That was
like a
pretty
yours
slick.
that I was traveling in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Rob Worthing of Tenkara Guides has one of those as well. Although yours was, very much louder.
I rented mine though. That's his.
Yeah,
He owns his. I'm a renter. But I've enjoyed this past year traveling the East Coast, basically fishing up and down the Appalachia, going down North Carolina, meeting you guys, and growing my account online just to keep my outreach going of Tenkara and just spreading the good word.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nate, you're up.
All right, I'm Nate Camp, Camp Kebari, Camp Made, and as you mentioned, cooking with Camp. Mostly the Kebari and Camp Made stuff. The cooking is just kind of here and there because I'm more focused on the Tenkara aspect recently, and I'm not working in kitchens as much, so there's less to post.
And what are these? Are these YouTube channels, Instagram? What are these?
All Instagram.
Okay, right on.
I am on the state leadership team for Backcountry Hunters and Anglers for Connecticut.
Nice.
Which I do push pretty heavily because they're helping preserve what we need as Tenkara anglers, that public access, that clean water, and everything else.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and I'm a brand ambassador for Tenkara Adventure Outfitters. I have been for a few years now.
And you wrote an article for Tenkara Angler not that long ago. You have your daughter who's also quite the angler as well, right?
She is. She just rounded 35 trout caught completely by herself.
And how old is she?
And she turns 5 next month.
Nice.
Getting them started.
That's starting her out right, Nathan.
She caught her first two.
Well, thanks everybody for kind of going around the horn and introducing yourself. Maybe I'll kick off the conversation, toss a question over to Bill or maybe a statement. So yeah, obviously the White Mountains opportunity popped up, and as we mentioned, it kind of fills a hole in the country in terms of where events are, or in this case aren't. What made you want to start the event, and would you mind just kind of giving an overview for everybody that didn't attend, what the agenda or activities were that weekend?
Sure. So I've been running a camping group with friends for a long time now, and it started out with motorcycles. And as we get older, people had families and motorcycles disappeared. And then it turned into just a camping trip. And then as I got into Tenkara, I started bringing that along, and I was going fishing while everyone was doing hikes and things like that. And then I started teaching my friends that weren't really into fly fishing or anything like that how to use Tenkara. And my real good friend, Mike from Malden, if you don't know, Malden is a real tough city like Cambridge or Somerville or Boston or whatever. He grew up in a city and never fished his entire life. And so I took him Tenkara fishing, and he immediately took to it. And after one camping trip, he's like, all right, when can we go again? So now every weekend I'm taking him fishing. We did another camping trip with the same group of guys, and I taught them all how to tenkara fish. And I was just complaining by the fireside about how people in the area don't even know what it is.
Right.
You go into a fly fishing store, and some of them laugh at you. Some of them say it's a fad. Some say, what is it? And so by the end of the camping trip, my friends pretty much convinced me to start a company. So my company was basically started on a camping trip.
They're very persuasive friends, man. I'll
Right?
tell you what.
I don't think I needed a lot of pushing, but it was
I gotcha.
So then once I got the company off the ground, I was working with Steve in North Country Angler up in North Conway. And I was telling him about how we started. And he's like, well, at some point you guys should put on an event, do some kind of camping event. And so I was trying to wait up to build a momentum of like followers and fans and, people that are into it in the area to try to put some kind of event on like this. And this year I felt like it was really time to do it. And my goal was to get 30 people to come, and I had to cap it at 30 because people were asking after that.
That's great.
I probably could have had 40 or so. That's a guesstimate anyways. But so we were going to put on the camping event in the White Mountains in New Hampshire. For those that don't know, the White Mountains is one of the prettiest places in New England to do any kind of camping or outdoor recreation. I'll give you some facts on the White Mountains. 1,200 miles of hiking trails, 400 miles of snowmobile trails, which I used to do, 160 miles of the Appalachian Trail run through the White Mountains. There's 23 developed campgrounds, 6 ski touring areas, 4 alpine ski areas, and 6 designated wilderness areas totaling 149,500 acres.
Wow.
So basically it's a wilderness playground for anyone that's into hiking, fishing, boating, mountain biking, you name it, it's all there. So the goal was to put together a grassroots event. I didn't want it to be commercial. I didn't want people to think I was trying to sell my gear. I left all my stuff in the car, and if someone had a break or anything, I would replace it for them. But I didn't sell any gear at the entire camping event, except to North Country Angler, who's been supporting me. And he basically said, my phone's ringing off the hook because of this event. So the whole point was just to get together with Tenkara all over New England and fish, camp, and have some fun. The full emphasis being on fishing, and then everything else would be secondary. I didn't want to load up the schedule with the presentations or talking stuff. I wanted people to fish, and that was the goal of the first year. We set up the campsite at Barnesfield, Gorham, New Hampshire, which is in the middle of the White Mountain National Forest. It's a really nice campsite for groups. No electricity, no water. Right at the sites, you had to walk to get stuff. And then we lined up Ledge Brewing in Intervale, which was 25 minutes away at most, to do presentations because they had a brewery where we'd have some beers and relax and have a good time. And they also had a nice big room with a screen and the equipment so we could do some presentations.
So were they free beers?
I think the first one might have been free, but after that,
all right. I was gonna say maybe that's why you had so many people show up.
But everyone kept buying me beer, so it didn't matter.
That's awesome.
And then so I basically took all the money with the registrations and paid for the campsites, and then ordered T-shirts. And then when I had a little bit more money, then I bought some wristbands and then some commemorative pins so people put on their hats and
nice.
their bags and
little swag. Huh?
Yeah, I wanted people to walk away with something, to show everyone else and say, "Oh, you weren't at the campout? I was at the campout."
I think you have 2 models wearing the T-shirt tonight.
We do.
right there. So
Right on, nice.
There you go.
And I dropped the ball and didn't wear mine. Yeah, so the schedule was to Friday morning. If you're going up early, you can fish on your own. Then you check in at the campsite, set up, and then we went to Ledge Brewing to register. Everybody signed in, got their free stuff, and then we did presentations. I did one on Tenkara.
Okay.
Steve from North Country Angler, he's the owner of the shop. He's been supporting me from day one. He did a presentation on his book, which is called New Hampshire Secret Waters. And he was talking about areas to go to and, more importantly, flies to use in the area.
Oh, okay.
And what was working at the time. I think the Coachman was the biggest one that he was promoting at the time as far as flies. And then Saturday, we're going to break off into small groups. Everyone go fishing in small groups. There's plenty of places to go. I didn't want 30 people showing up to the same site. So Friday, the goal was to talk about different sites and then break off into different sites.
Got it.
And then And then Saturday afternoon, we were to meet up and watch Nate and Amanda do some fly tying,
Oh,
which I showed up a little late because we had an incident on the water.
oh, hopefully not
And
serious.
the incident.
I fell and got cut up pretty good, and my other friend dropped his phone in the water.
Oh, geez.
So we have videos online of two of us going into the water. Actually, no, just one of us going into the water. I went in first and bailed after a little bit over my waist. Jeff went in up to his chest and decided it was too cold to get the phone.
Oh, so he lost the phone.
Yeah.
I've done that before. I left the phone in Colorado somewhere. So Jeff and I were on the same club.
So the owner of the phone, Tyler, went back on Sunday when a lot of us were heading home. He stayed up with his girlfriend, and he went back to the
Okay.
same site and retrieved the phone, and it works.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So 24
Wow.
hours in a washing machine, and it still works.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's
That's
that
a
really
big
says
save.
something.
Yeah, it was I may be trading in my iPhone for what he had. Yeah, and then Saturday, after we were fishing and after the fly tying, we headed back to the campsite, and we had like a potluck type of cookout where people were throwing in food that they brought,
Mhm.
and then telling our stories from what happened during the day. And then Sunday was just checkout. That was the schedule.
Cool. No, that's awesome. Sounds like there was, like you said, enough to, if you wanted to, do an organized event, there was enough bones to it to, keep you busy, but plenty of time to fish, which I'm sure was what everybody, was there to do. Now, as you were doing that rundown, you mentioned there was a little bit of fly tying going on. And the other two folks that are on the podcast, and I guess we're kind of doing that. How did that go? What were you tying for the local waters?
Sure. I had tied some of my recent go-to pattern, which I call a tail tucker nymph. It's a wire wrap over two pheasant feathers and a little bead. I know it's controversial to say I'm throwing a beadhead, but
No, it's not. It's not at all.
I'm
What
throwing
what size are you fishing?
14.
This
Right
one,
on,
Nate.
man.
That's it.
Nice.
I was
It's
just tying
it's
them
an
up
ugly
before I got on.
it's an ugly little thing, but it works
Oh, yeah.
extremely well. That and my dry fly, which I recently wrote an article on.
So I guess those flies that you were tying up, I assume brookies was the target species. Is that primarily what is in the whites?
That's mostly what I caught. I saw some people get some rainbows and such. All I touched that weekend were brookies.
Got it. I just probably know this, but I don't. Are the fish there stocked, wild, native, mix of all of the above? What's the composition of
Mix of all the above.
the fish in the water? Yeah.
Yeah, mix of all the above. Whatever you want to target, you can find it. You can go to a major river like the Saco River and go after big stocked rainbows and browns, or you can hike into the mountains and on some trails and go for wild brookies.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
like
caught
nice...
two wild rainbows that were about 8 inches each. They were beautiful, way up. I wasn't too happy to see them, but along the way, every pocket that I hit, I was hitting brookies the whole time, so it really didn't matter.
Awesome.
When I saw the flash of white going for my fly instead of the darker, I was like, that's rainbow.
Right
It was
on.
pretty
So
beautiful.
would between the three of you, or just in general, would you say that most people were fishing weighted flies, or how were most people approaching the water up there? Were you fishing with beadheads and going low, having luck on the top with wets or dries or anything, or what was working up there that weekend?
So I think a lot of the anglers that were there were pretty new, pretty novice at all, just even to fishing in general. So when they started, I think they were taking note of what we were fishing and what we were tying, and Nate and I were just handing out flies to people.
Right on.
So I'm sure they were just using what we were giving them for the most part.
So you were giving them mostly bead-headed nymphs then, and
I was giving them my Sakasa. That's what I was handing out to them mostly, so they could fish it however they wanted to. But it's a wet fly, so I'm sure it was sinking.
I handed out the dry mostly. The bead heads I selfishly tied for myself because my stock was low.
Fair enough. Yeah.
When you ask what I was tying, that's my honest answer. But what I was giving out was the dry and some Sakasa that I tied. we had a good session around the picnic table under a Coleman lantern, and someone was catching all the little flies that were flying around the light. I said, "Here, can you do this one?" And I was doing my best with what I had.
Yes,
That's
he
it.
was.
Very cool.
Did anybody happen to report back to you that they caught fish with the flies you gave them, or was that too late in the weekend?
That was the first night that I was doing that. I didn't hear any reports back, but Amanda's friend got a good few of them. I don't know if he caught anything on them.
Yeah, he caught a lot on your killer bug. But once he threw that on, he caught like 6 of them right in a row. Boom, boom, boom.
So hey, just remember Camp Kebari on Instagram.
Yeah.
You can probably pick a couple of those up if you don't tie yourself.
Somebody reported to me that they were catching flies on the flies that Amanda gave them.
Oh, they were?
Nice.
I don't know.
You make that sound like it's unbelievable.
You know, it
No,
makes
it's believable to me because I catch fish on them, but
I took 5 people to the water, and we were doing a little mix. The surprising one was the orangish reddish attractor fly, like big fat dry. That was working pretty well. These little wild brookies are very, very aggressive. They see something big coming down the water, and they chomp them.
You know, last week I was guiding conventional fly fishing for some Trout Unlimited clinics, and like against everything that I begged my client to do, they had this big red like pinch on strike indicator because they were suspension nymphing, and the for an hour the trout were swiping at the big red trout indicator, floating on the surface and completely ignoring whatever she was floating underneath them. But yeah, like they sometimes they just want that big obnoxious looking thing that just obviously doesn't belong there, and they'll go nuts after it. So I guess my point's always like your strike indicator should have a hook in it in some way, shape, or form. Like, whatever, if you're using a fly for it or what have you. But yeah, I guess that's the long rambling point there, was those obnoxious shapes and colors seem to be more effective sometimes than you'd think.
I've used the attractor fly as an indicator and dropped a nymph below it. And more often than not, they go after the attractor fly, the big juicy dry, as opposed to the nymph below it.
Do you use hoppers out there for like a suspension, or like what do you typically put in your like attractor or suspension position there?
Up here, we just call it an attractor fly. It's I don't know how to describe the pattern. It's orange and yellow and has a lot of hackle to it. It floats really well. It can take it can carry a nymph below it really, really easy.
It's probably kind of bushy, right? To keep it
very bushy.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right on. And Amanda, you were mostly fishing your Kebari that you tie yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah, I will fish Nate's Kebari, but that's other people's. I'm very leery. My thing is I go so deep into the woods, and I just, if I want to catch a fish, I want to catch fish with what I know works. So I usually just fish like 1 to 2 patterns at most.
The confidence
I
pattern.
don't switch my flies too often.
That makes a lot of sense. You get used to the weight and the characteristics of the cast and everything, and it does what you want it to do. Oftentimes, like I know with me, like a big issue is like if I can see it well enough. But yeah, you build up confidence with a particular pattern, and it just works.
I think I have like 3 or 4 fly boxes full of flies, and I end up using like 2 patterns out of all of them. It's like whatever I catch that first fish on, that's what I'm fishing for the weekend, until I don't.
Yeah.
So you're not alone in having a confidence pattern by any stretch.
I know it's preaching to the choir, but one of the greater virtues of using the fixed line with the beadhead is it's still a dry if I want it to be.
Yeah, you can control that depth with that line tension.
And Amanda's seen it firsthand. I've taken it down a pool, and I've fished every 3 inches from surface to bottom, and I hit them somewhere. Just those 4 or 5 passes, just drop it a little bit every time. And that's why I love that bead on there. Get right down where they are.
I think that's a really great point, and I think a lot of people miss that opportunity in putting weight on their system like that, and they just automatically kind of plunge past that top 2/3 or so of the water column, and like, yeah, we all know that the fish hold low a lot of the times, but yeah, you can do a lot more with that weighted beadhead fly like you're talking about, Nathan, than just low and slow it. And yeah, you can if you need to fish it on the surface, you can make that happen. I'm really happy to see other anglers doing that, man. That's good stuff.
Something I've seen firsthand is if you drop that fly and if you go incrementally down from that very surface to the very bottom, fish that come up, if you can turn their head, they're less likely to spook the ones under them. Mm-hmm. If you turn them right off, you can fish 2 or 3 fish out of that same plunge.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're kind of working the sight line in the way that you're dropping that weighted fly into the run. Interesting. Yes. Interesting.
I mean, I went fishing with Nate in Connecticut, and that's literally what happened. We weren't even that far off the road. We were just in a very secluded part of town, I would say. and the hole that we ended up coming to, Nate's like, oh, look at this. And he ended up first cast, boom. Almost like immediately, and then it took a few more casts, but he caught another one because he snuck up on the hole and went further and deeper, and I think he pulled 4 fish out of the same. Nice. And it wasn't that wide, it wasn't that long. It maybe was like 10 feet by maybe 5, like the run, and the hole maybe was 8 feet deep. Nate, I don't even know.
It's about 4.5 at the plunge, and I know because I went in it to check.
Oh, okay.
Right on. That's one way to do it.
After the fact, I caught what I could catch, and then I went and stood in it.
Oh gosh. No, he definitely caught 4 fish out of it.
That's awesome.
But they're good size too, all 4 of them. Like, and that's the thing. You just fish it straight to the bottom. You have one hit. The smaller ones are going to be less leery and more likely to go for it. But if you can peel them off layer by layer, that's how you're going to get the bigger fish consistently out of that hole.
That's a cool tactic, man. So like, and you started shallower with that then, correct?
Yep. You can see it just breaking the surface tension.
Yeah. Excellent stuff.
I use a lot of Euro nymphs nowadays.
Like what size do you typically are you targeting like micro stuff like 18s, 20s, like really tiny Euro nymphs, or
16 maybe?
I fish a 14, like generic Euro nymph a lot. And that even is probably like a little bigger than I need to go. I could probably drop down to a 16 pretty easily. But then I would have to see it when I'm tying, and there's really a point beyond which that's more trouble than it's worth. But
14 is a good all around, in my opinion. It's what I use as a standard for all the Camp Kebari flies.
Okay.
I'll go bigger or smaller if someone requests it, but for the most part, I've found 14 is big enough to be enough of a temptation to get those trout to come out and hit at it. And when you start going smaller, you have to have even more finesse with your handling of it. So it's just big enough to tempt them out, but not so big that it's gaudy and it's going to turn them.
Interesting. Yeah.
It sounds like it sounds like a lot of your water is actually kind of similarly sized to like stuff here in the Midwest, in Wisconsin, as far as, you're talking about, 10 feet wide or 5 feet wide, and 2 to 3, 4 feet deep, and all pretty similarly scaled. So do you find that Tenkara is the systems that you're fishing there are appropriately scaled for the water, or any sorts of mismatch as far as like rod length, line length, or particular challenges in regards to that, or that you think are kind of unique to that environment up there?
I think it's a matter of the old adage of one gun, one place every time. I have the bad axe, and that's what I use across the board. It's my rod. I have others, and I use them occasionally, but the bad axe it's the one that wins it. And when I do need that extra foot taken off, gone, and it works very well for me. Anywhere from those little streams that Mando was talking about, 10 feet across at the shallow part, and 2 at the deep, and just that straight cut through the rock to rivers that are 20, 30 feet wide and about 5 feet across, or 5 feet deep all the way across.
That is precisely the type of water that rod was designed to be fished on, because it was designed originally for this water up here in Wisconsin. So like it's good to hear. Like I don't know if you're familiar, know that TAO is bringing forward some designs from Badger, but that rod was originally designed for the exact same scale of water. So I guess I'm really happy to hear, as someone who was involved in designing that, that you feel like it's your weapon of choice on that size water. To me, it sounds like it's meeting the mail on what you need it to do. That's good.
I technically own about 5 Bad Axe.
Oh, the same rod?
3 of them. 3 of them are in circulation. I had hands on them in years. One person fishes them until they're done with it, and someone else is turn to try, and it just goes from person to person.
Nice.
2 of them are in that state. One of them has permanently gone to the person. I've gifted a few of them, and the 2 that I keep, one for teaching and one for me, the dirty one is mine. But all the replacement parts, which are few and far between, are Tenkara Adventure Outfitters. The guts and the majority of those rods are still Badger.
Wow,
nice.
Matt.
Good to hear they're still kicking, man.
The name lives on.
Well, I think that has something to do with the angler taking care of it too. But that really is just a really a cool thing to hear, man. I'm glad that that's getting it done for you up there.
They're a crawl through the mud rod. They really are. They take it.
That's like, yeah.
Keep banging. I love it.
Well, that was kind of the intent, and Mike Lutz, who was the other half of Badger with me, summed it up in cars, that we weren't trying to build Ferraris. We were building kind of Civics, like Honda Civics. And I guess that doesn't sound too, sexy to take on the water, but it equates to a reliable, consistent experience. And that's what you're getting there. So and that's good, man. That's really good. So Amanda and Bill,
I mean,
what do you
honestly,
like? Bill, I imagine you fish Redbrook rods, and Amanda, you have a preference?
Our area has every kind of water you can imagine. Everything from wide open rivers that are really wide and fast flowing to really tight areas where you're going in and out of brush. You don't have room to back cast. You're doing the bow and arrow a lot. A lot of our areas are really, really tight. And so people don't want, a big rod or anything like that. The reason I came up with the Ranger rod, the 8-footer, was because all my customers came back and said, we need something smaller. So, I mean, if you're going to fish New England, you kind of need one of each,
Sure.
And I don't care what brand it is. You're going to need something for the bigger fish, the bigger areas, and you're going to need something for the tighter areas. Whatever your, the best tool for the job is.
It's a good argument for maintaining a quiver of rods.
Sure.
Yes.
Which I've ended up settled on about 4 or 5 that are my primary. I think a lot of people end up. Well, Nathan simplifies that by using one
Well,
model.
he has 5 rods. They're just all the same.
Exactly. And Amanda, what rods do you like to fish?
Honestly, I started off with Mizuchi from Dragon Tail, and then I graduated to a Roto because it's a little more expensive. I wanted to try it, so it was lighter, so I felt better with it. But now I've been hooked on these Pocket Ninja Tanuki rods, the 9'6" Tanuki. I have gotten away from the telescoping rods, like the 3-ways, the bays, because I found that I can, yeah. I mean, they're all telescoping, but yeah. I feel like I've gotten more comfortable casting, even just bow and arrow casting. I really enjoy the length of my Tanuki, especially the length that I fish. My 9'6", I can put on a 12-foot line with maybe 3 to 5 feet of tippet, and I'm able to cast really nicely with it, weighted or, my Sakasa. So I enjoy my Pocket Ninja.
Excellent.
Cool.
But I will say that Badger, the bat axe. When Nate handed it to me in Connecticut when I was fishing, I was able to just bow and arrow cast, and doop. I think Nate was at my second cast. I caught a fish, brown trout.
Yep, good one too.
Yeah, it was
Glad to hear it.
I was the fact if I can just pick up a rod and just use it so comfortably, it's not. It's a good rod to me. It's a good rod,
Right on.
and I don't have to like double, think about it or whatever. Yeah. So.
I've not been a big fan of adjustable rods either, and in particular, like triple zooms to me have not made a lot of sense. But I had an epiphany last week of what the middle zoom is potentially good for on a rod, and I think the middle zoom position on a 3-position rod, like that's where you rig the rod. You put it in the middle position, and then you rig the rod, and then you either move it one direction or another, and that gives you
right. I got
and that
it.
to me, I've been trying to solve, like, Scooby-Doo style, trying to solve the mystery of like what else I could do with the middle position on a triple zoom rod. But I think that's the gold there, personally.
Yeah.
So Tenkaraverse, those of you with triple zoom rods, maybe report back to us and let us know how that goes.
Well, with the zoom
I
rod,
like your theory.
if you have a fish on with the zoom rod, if you extend it an extra length, you can get some more pressure on the fish if you're not at the full extension. I've done that before.
I've seen that, and I've seen Japanese anglers zooming back the other way because they they'll do fishing out over a pool type of thing, and then bring it back. So I think there are some legitimate uses for it. Maybe I'm just clumsy, so I try to remove the whole factor of adjustment out of it for me.
Yeah,
but
They're
I think
definitely
that's a good point. That's a good point, Bill.
Sounds like you just need a reel if you're going to be doing that. Did I say
they're
that?
a compromise,
Certainly. And to me, again, I want to, whether or not I definitely will champion my preferences. That's all they are. It's just personal preferences and subjective. The best Tenkara rod for you is the one that you pick up and use most comfortably and catch fish with.
So let's maybe just go back to the camp out real quick.
Yeah.
We did a whole dive into equipment, which was awesome. I mean, I didn't think we were getting that in this show. Yeah, we went all in.
We fished every lake.
In terms of the turnout, I think Amanda mentioned there was a kind of a good mix of anglers. There were, total new people who were maybe fishing Tenkara for the first time to maybe some, more experienced folks that have done it for a few years. How did you feel like the social gatherings went? Whether it was during the evenings or maybe, during the day and the various sessions like that, Bill, were they well received? Did people get out of it, do you think, what you were hoping to, put on for them?
Honestly, I was running around trying to make sure everything was going well. They might be a better judge than I am. As far as I know, people had a good time. It was a really good mix of people. We had newbies, we had experts, we had people in between. I had somebody from my office who's a golfer who hadn't fished since he was a kid.
Nice.
It was a really good mix of people, and when you get that many people together too, there's always the loud guy, and there's the people that get quiet and stuff like that. But
Sure,
I don't know. I think it went pretty well. They can probably
that's all.
tell you better than I
If you were just to look at the feedback I was on your event page on Facebook, and just the amount of pictures that were posted afterwards, I mean, it seemed like there was definitely a lot of folks having a good time, whether it was, drinking those beers or, obviously on the stream afterwards. That's a testament to, obviously you and, what you set up.
Yeah. I mean, I took a group of 5 to the water, and 2 of them were complete beginners. And one was Dan Pierce from Maine Tenkara guide. And Tyler, a friend of mine that I'd taken 2 or 3 times before, I wanted to keep coaching him and helping him along. He did pretty well. And then Jeff, another guy I work with who's a golfer, caught his first brookie on his 3rd cast. And you might have seen the video. He's the one dancing in the stream.
I did see that. Yeah.
And then Lisa, who's in our group, her first time fishing ever, caught her first brookie too. I think it went pretty
Isn't that awesome to be there for somebody's first fish?
To see Jeff's excitement,
isn't that just
that made my weekend. I'm like, I don't care what I catch. I'm like, that guy is so happy right now.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. We had a bunch of that as well, in terms of just mixed crowds at the other campouts too, that I noticed, especially the North Carolina one in particular was definitely a diverse, crowd there. So it's just nice to see, like I mentioned, there's some energy, it seems like, in, the and I don't know if it's due to COVID, people just wanting to be outdoors, or just the fact that things are cyclical, and it's been 10, 11 years since Tenkara had its initial kind of boom, and maybe it's just time for it to come back in again. But it seems like there's lots of people that are getting involved again, and events like yours are great ways for people to not only learn how to the basics of how to operate Tenkara equipment and fish with it, but just to meet other people that are like-minded, and grow create friendships that hopefully grow and last for quite a bit of time.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say create them. It's like discovering them when you're talking to the group of people, and people that are newer to it, or they've been doing it for a while, and you're having a conversation about something. And instead of the usual, you talk about Tenkara or flip fishing to someone, and they're like, "Oh, you catch big fish." It's like, so how do you fish? And it's very focused questions. And you're like, yeah, I can get into this conversation. I can do this. I got a little carried away with a couple of the explanations I have. There's a picture of me throwing a knife hand when I'm talking to a group of people at the I
Nathan,
open and I'm explaining something, and I know it's just about rod technique, but it looks like I'm just giving someone the business.
are you a vet, Nate?
I am Marine Corps veteran.
Right on. Outstanding. Were you well, I'll hit you up with that later. But yeah, I mean, you bring up the knife hand, that's an automatic assumption. You must be an MCO at some point.
Yeah.
We'll hit that offline.
Yeah.
Cool. There were also, if I understand, there were some raffles, right? Like some giveaways. And I'll bring this up just so we can embed some links to your sponsors or whatnot in our show notes. But what kind of products or gifts did you raffle off? What did you end up giving away?
We had Tenkara Angler stuff. We had stickers. We had magazines. A coffee mug. A bunch of things from you guys. Amanda was able to get stuff. She could tell us where they came from.
Timber Fins actually donated a bunch of fly patches, and of course I forgot to give them out. So if people want to send me their address, I will gladly send them to you. But they're these lovely, actually Timber and Fins is just someone that I met through Instagram, David. I actually just went fishing with him in Vermont, but he is a proponent for Tenkara, and he travels around the world, or did, and he ended up getting this fixed line rod. And he's like, I want you to tell me what Tenkara, what do I fish with this? So I get it, and I'm holding it in my hand, and it's really heavy. It's heavy on the one end. And I'm like, this is not Tenkara. This is a fixed line. It was maybe 6 feet. It's for fishing for prawn. And I had never held a rod that you prawn fish with. So
wow.
When I Googled it and told him, he's like, prawning? He's like, this is useless to me. He paid $90 for it in Taiwan. But anyway, David is all about Tenkara, and he actually put my Sakasa on the fly patch. So he gave those to me to hand out to everyone. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Awesome. It's Timber and Fins. They just do leather goods. Is that what that is? Just
they do, yeah. And they're eco-friendly. I mean, he even had this. He was showing it to me when we were fishing. I don't know. I forget the mushroom that instantly dries your fly. It's like a what's up?
It's the pounded. It's the pounded inner layer of the horseshoe shelf mushroom.
Yes. So he used that, and he
Very
does
cool.
a bunch of things that a lot of people are not doing, and he's pro Tenkara, so I'm all about it.
we like people like that.
Right on.
Yeah.
We also had a fanny pack from Yonah Packs.
Okay.
And we had an Orvis pack and some books from Steve at North Country Angler in North Conway, New Hampshire. Steve was the first fly shop in the area to support us. He's been a Tenkara proponent since day one. He met me at a fishing show, and rather than just say, this is going to make me money, he said, bring it up to the shop and let's go fish with it. So I said, all right, take me to your favorite brook trout area. and I followed him down this dirt road up and over bridges. And if I didn't have him with me, I would never get out of there again. But I followed him to this really nice spot for brook trout, and I gave him a Tenkara rod and I showed him how to use it. And after that, he was convinced, and he put it in his shop. So he's been a really good proponent of Tenkara as far as New Hampshire goes.
For those that I guess that aren't familiar with the area, do they guide Tenkara trips out of that shop too, or do they sell the product?
So there's 2 guides up in New Hampshire that are ambassadors for me and also guide with Tenkara. Nate Hill from Hill Country Guides and Mason Thagoras from White Mountain Anglers. They both have Tenkara rods, and they're more than willing to take people Tenkara fishing.
Awesome. That'd be a good resource for people that, might be new to Tenkara or just not familiar with the area and, familiar with Tenkara, but just don't know where to go. Right. Cool. And then you also gave away a rod, right?
Yes, we gave away a rod to everyone that put a picture up on the website.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to promote the event, and I figured what better way than to give away a rod to someone who's helpful. And actually, Sean Coffin won it, and this was the guy from day one who was like, all right, what do you need? How can I help? I never met him before either. He just signed up and went. Cool. And so when we had to leave the campsite and go to the brewery for presentations, he's like, I'll stay behind and get the people that are coming late and tell them where to go. And then when we were leaving the brewery, he's like, I'll take the pizza money and go get the firewood. He was just constantly helping us.
One of those helpful guys, right? Yeah, those are great people to know, right? I aspire to be one someday, but I always seem to come up short for whatever the reason. I'm the one that's sneaking out of things or whatever unceremoniously.
So are we doing this again next year?
Yes.
Awesome. Do you have a date planned or anything, or is it just kind of in loose planning form right now?
I'm thinking, I haven't talked to these guys yet, but I'm thinking around the same time. The reason being, if you get midsummer in the White Mountains, some of our good fishing areas end up turning into swimming holes, and a lot of hikers and stuff like that.
Sure.
And ever since COVID, all the White Mountain National Forest parking spots have been filling up like crazy. They had to put ropes on the road telling people not to park on the road. That's how busy it's gotten.
Yeah, it's been like it was like that out west too. And like I'm torn because like I'm happy to see people engaged with the outdoors, but you see a lot of people who don't know manners or etiquette or what have you piling in out there, and the resource starts getting trampled, and it takes some extra care to be managed well. So it's good to be aware of.
Yeah, you end up pulling a lot of trash out when you're hiking.
Yeah, don't get me started on like worm canisters along the stream. Don't get me started on that. Oh man, I'll just back out of there.
But
back out of the worm
canister. Another thought I had was so we were on the eastern side of the White Mountains in the North Conway area, which a lot of people know North Conway if you're from New England. It's a shopping district with outlets and stuff, but also close to all the hiking and everything. But there's a highway that runs through the White Mountains, east to west or west to east, called the Kangamangas or the Kank.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the most scenic byways in the United States. I think it's like 35 miles east to west, and it connects the 2 major towns in the White Mountains. So we were on the east side of North Conway. I'm thinking maybe next year, possibly, we could go to the opposite side where Lincoln, New Hampshire is. I have a few connections there with a campground and a restaurant and stuff. And maybe we could do the other side of the White Mountains. That's one of the possibilities.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That would be very cool. And then like, I guess if I could make a request is like, let us know when you're doing your thing, like when you lock your date down as fast as you can. So if we're doing anything else, like I want a chance to make it out to hang out with y'all.
Awesome.
So like I want to make sure I don't have any other obligations next year, and would really like to come up and visit. So keep us posted like as soon as you have a date, so we can get that out in the environment for you and make our own plans.
Yeah, one thing I did like about the North Carolina camp out, because I went to that and this one, there were, because I still consider myself an amateur. I want to be around people that, you got Bill, you got Nate, but I want to be around more people that will, increase my knowledge too. Sure. Being so new to Tenkara, I want to, it's hard for me to teach if I don't know so much. So yeah, if I have more, experienced anglers there, I think that'd be pretty cool.
I invited
Right on. You know, like if we can make sure, you know, that you've got a good like instructor to student ratio, like, you know, how many people come. Like you had an easy 30 this year. Like we might have to get a kind of a little posse of instructors together. And
I know,
get
I
up
was
there
really
and
surprised
support
by
that.
how many Bill said were coming. I'm like, really? Because there were like 60 at North Carolina. This is like the first year.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Don't
Yeah,
underestimate
it
us.
really, I think it really bodes well for our sport. You know, if I may go so far as to call the Tenkara community that.
Sure.
I'm excited to see. Honestly, man, I hate to put it this way, younger folks. You know, like
Well, how young do you think I am?
how old do you how young do you think I am? Maybe it's not about old and young. Maybe it's about just you know,
No, I hear you. I hear
a
you.
new generation of people interested,
New energy,
and,
new blood. Yep.
and passionate about it and willing to take the lead in events like this. And I guess thank you for showing some leadership in the community and giving people the chance to get together like this.
One of the things I want to mention, in New Hampshire, the regulations state that you can't use, I mean, you have to use a reel when you're fly fishing. So technically speaking, Tenkara is illegal in fly fishing only areas.
So your event was an outlaw
Woo!
event? You're a whole bunch of Tenkara
Yes.
Outlaws?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
here's the rub.
I don't know if Tenkara Angler can be associated. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, most of the best places for Tenkara fishing in New Hampshire aren't fly fishing only. They're just in the mountains and the streams and stuff.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. So it's the
Mhm.
fly fishing only waters. That,
Yeah, and some of those
that applies
waters.
to. I
But
gotcha.
I've also been told by several people in the know that you're not going to be bothered. You're not going to be harassed. You're fishing a fly. If you're throwing a furl line, you have a weighted line too.
Mhm.
I may or may have not fished all those areas with a Tenkara rod. Also, one of the best places to fly fish in New Hampshire, Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, which is up by Canada, has a lot of fly fishing only areas. One of the main shops up there is now carrying Tenkara gear.
Oh, great.
So we're
Excellent.
making our way. We're
getting around.
We're spreading the word.
Yeah, that's awesome. If somebody wanted to go and fish the White Mountains and they didn't live in New England, like me, if I had to fly up, where would you recommend I fly into and or drive from? Like, where does that look like geographically, just out of curiosity?
The two best base areas would be Lincoln, New Hampshire, where Loon Mountain ski area is, or North Conway, New Hampshire. Either one of those two spots, you can make your base, and then you could spread out from there. I picked up a map at the rest area in North Woodstock. I don't have it on me. It's a hiking map that's available at all the stops. I can send it to anyone. It's a great hiking map, and it even has little fish on it. And
Nice.
I picked the hiking trails that look good to me and have a lot of water on them, and that's how I go.
If you were flying in though, probably I guess Boston would be the closest like big city,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then what's the commute from Boston about?
I
Any idea?
drove from Ashland. It was about 3.5, 4 hours to where we were staying.
That's fair.
It was 3 for me, and I'm 10 miles south of Boston.
Got it. Okay. That's not
Yeah.
that bad.
Fly into Bradley in Connecticut, and I'll whet your appetite first.
I like Nathan's plan because the last time I drove through Boston, I swore it would be the last time I ever drove
It's
through Boston.
Not, yes.
Yeah. I do it every day. It's a nightmare.
More power to you, dude.
So I've never fished in the White Mountains before, ever, and I've always wanted to. So when I heard that Bill was having this event, I was like, yeah, I'm going. So the way I fished it, like Bill was saying, he picked up a map and went fishing. I looked at my Gaia GPS and picked a blue line and went. And literally I fished 3 different ones and caught fish in every single hole. I didn't see a single fisherman. I hiked up a mile and then I started fishing and it was great. I don't know if because people weren't there yet or for vacation or anything. I had a really good time.
Sounds awesome. Sounds like really great access.
I had a childhood memory of a stream, a brook in Dollycock, because I stayed there once as a kid. We had the Saco every year in the canoes. And one year it was so blown out, they weren't letting us do anything. So we drove across to New Hampshire, and we stayed at Dollycock. And I remember like you said, it turns into swimming holes. While we swam, and there's a huge rock slide. Amanda and I fished that creek the first morning.
Yeah, we got there Friday morning.
Too
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice and early.
Did you catch there?
We were catching how many? I don't even know how many fish we caught that day.
We caught upwards of 10 in about a quarter mile.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And then we turned around with
That's great. Were they brookies?
Yeah, all brookies.
All brookies. Sweet.
Yep.
the first one was a real trophy trout from the stream.
Nate's like, I think I see a fish. It's right there. I'm like, okay, you fish over there. So he caught a fish. Then I went over there and caught a fish. Like, okay,
Nice.
She
this is how
called
the
BS.
weekend's gonna be.
She called BS, and I put it right on his nose, and he was that long.
It's true.
They all count.
Yes, they did.
They all count.
Yeah, you can't go wrong in the White Mountains. I have a slide in my presentation that basically shows the brook trout population in the White Mountains, and it's covered. There aren't many bad spots.
Very cool.
Sounds
Well,
like a
I
place to
know
get
you've
to fish.
definitely piqued my. You all three have piqued my interest in
Mhm.
getting up there in general, but definitely making it to the next event that you do specifically. Do you got anything, any kind of closing-ish, or kind of? Boy, last words isn't the term I was looking for, but that's the only thing that could come to mind.
I have a biggest regret.
What's that?
Sure.
My biggest regret not getting the group photo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes,
And,
I can see that.
Phil.
I don't think we've been good about doing that at any of the events.
It just slips the mind, you know.
Yeah.
I'm standing next to Sean at the fire, and he's like, "You got to get a group photo." I'm like, "It's too dark already." He's like, "All right, tomorrow." And tomorrow didn't happen.
Yeah.
I think for the next one, we'll just have that timer set on the phone. Okay, we're doing presentations at 6, so 7:30 or so before everyone cuts out.
Yeah.
Just get everyone together, take a picture then,
You can't go anywhere until we take
Yeah.
the picture, that sort of thing. Yeah.
and do like 5 group photos, so you'll get everyone at some of them.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Especially the no one gets on the water until we get this picture taken type of thing. That's a good way to make sure it happens.
That's true.
Make them all line up to sign in, and then just surprise them with everybody turn left.
Awesome. You have any concluders, I guess, Amanda?
Hope to see you guys there next year.
That would be awesome. I
Well,
think
thanks.
you've piqued both Matt and my interest in this, and in me doing a little bit of
Yeah.
research, it seems like not only the fishing is really good, but anybody that knows me knows I like a little bit of bigfooting too. And from what I understand, there is a Shyman of the White Mountains that looks over
Hi, man.
It looks over
Yes, sir,
anglers as they
Shyman.
fish. So I am very
right.
interested in knocking on some trees or howling at night or whatever to see if we can't get him to come out as well. That would be a good photo op if he was in our group photo.
Outstanding.
Cool. Well, awesome. I appreciate everybody joining, getting this podcast kind of back going again after our 2-year, I guess, hiatus. Sounds like you put on a really great event. Again, thanks for everybody for joining, and hope to, see you all, in person, maybe next year.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.